Bonjour, watcher. This is Johnny45 and welcome back to the Labyrinth of Grisaia. Yeah, I'm trying to sound like Jacksepticeye, but I cannot. Alright, in the last episode, we have started. Yes, Yuuji's past. Cut it out. It's embarrassing.
私はこの絵が好きよ。何も恥ずかしいことなんてないわ。
Hearing that made me happy. I even started thinking I might have a little talent as an artist myself. But one day, when a well-known artist was supposed to come look at my sister's work, I listened through the door as my father told her to take down the embarrassing I saw on her wall.
わざわざ大杉先生がお前の絵を見に来てくださるというのに、こんな子供の落書きを並べておいたら恥さらしじゃないか。
Wow, so handsome!
私が好きで飾っている絵を侮辱しないで。
What?
なんだユージ、当てつけるつもりか。
My father's angry shouts were a familiar part of my everyday life that didn't particularly bother me. Still, the sorrowful look on my sister's face as she gathered out the scraps on my paper made my heart ache with regret. Yeah, Yuuji, why you do such
ご
thing?
めんね、ユージ。
I ignored my sister's apology by pretending to sleep. My family was a defective structure balanced precariously on a foundation of sand. The one pillar keeping the whole thing upright wasn't my father, our sad excuse for a breadwinner. It was my big sister. Kazuki had made a name for herself in the fine art world as a promising prodigy, but once she reached 12 years of age, that talent began to show signs of waning. Her normal pace of 3 paintings a month fell to a single canvas every 3 months, and even the ones she finished lacked the delicate touches which had lent her earlier work the power to enthrall. My parents declared it was nothing more than a temporary slump, and their expectations for Kazuki didn't fade. Still, it was clear that many in the art world were beginning to question if Yugodo was already losing its luster. It's not uncommon to hear of prodigies who end up being perfectly ordinary people after 20s, but this dramatically premature decline soon began to unsettle our parents. My father, who whom Kazuki's slump was a great crisis, eventually began to interrogate her about it.
なぜ描けなくなった？以前は描けていたのに。
Yeah, she has become mature. See, she's so beautiful. My sister's answer to that question was very simple.
以前かけていたのは私が子供だったからよ。
Almost too simple. My father's interpreted as if claiming that Kazuki's eccentric sense of talent had deteriorated with age. But in reality, my sister has simply learned how to hold back. The childish hard work she once poured into everything was pointless, even counterproductive. Trying too hard only increased the number of people who envied her, so now she was deliberately giving mediocrity a try. When we were alone, Kazuki explained all this to me quite frankly.
何でもできる子だと思われても鬱陶しいじゃない？たまには苦手なものもあるってところを見せてあげないと、さすがに気持ち悪がられるもの。
True enough. Just having the title of child genius bestowed on you is enough to push your peers away. My big sister never put that much importance on connecting with others as a child, but over the last few years, her thinking seems to have changed significantly. Specifically, she was now trying to become something like a normal person. I was doing homework after school one evening when Kazuki came home carrying a massive stack of manga in her arms.
学校で流行っているみたいだから、クラスの子に頼んで借りてきたのよ。
My big sister was starting to dabbling in anything and everything. Even then, I knew most adults thought manga was just brain-rotting trash. And it's popular at school probably wasn't going to fly as an excuse for reading it.
読み終わったらあなたにも貸してあげる。読みなさい。
But they'll get mad at me if I read manga. My parents had never bought me any comic magazine. There'd been an incident before where we dropped by a bookstore after going out for dinner as a family. When my father browsed through the art section, I wandered over to the manga aisles and started reading when I stood. Eventually, mother came along and asked if I wanted the book. I told her the answer yeah, but my father vehemently objected. He said reading that garbage would turn me into an idiot. He would definitely yell at me again.
そんなのは子供の頃に漫画を読まなかったバカな大人の言い分でしかないわ。いい？ユージ。漫画を読めば漫画が好きな子と共通の話題ができる。それってとても重要なことなのよ。もしかしたらその漫画好きの子と友達になることで今までになかった世界が見えてくる可能性もあるじゃない？同じ趣味を通じて知り合った友達ってあなたが思っている以上に大切なの。この子とは10年後も友達でいるだろうなって人間を探すのに、漫画とかゲームって意外と便利なツールだし、大人が考えるほど無駄じゃない。
Well, true enough, because my little brother found stupid people in video games. Not stupid people are his friends in the video game.
それに、そういう縁でつながった人脈ほど深い関係が続くものよ。私、1年生の頃同じクラスだった子と、クラスが変わった今でも未だに仲がいいもの。
Are friends really that important?
重要ね。天才が一人で世界を回そうなんて思っていたら、それこそ痛い目に遭うわよ。大人になってから人脈の大切さに気がついても遅いし、大人になっても気づけない人は、いざという時に周りに誰もいないことに気がついて絶望するわ。自分の価値観でしか物のありがたみを理解できない大人が一番くだらないと思わない？うちのお父さんを見てごらんなさいな。あなたはあんな大人になりたい？
I don't know.
あなたにはまだちょっと早すぎたかしら。まあいいわ。私の話はおしまい。宿題が終わったのなら、外でお友達と遊んできなさいな。
I don't have friends.
なら、作る努力から始めなさい。
Okay. Having learned to handicap herself in pursuit of normality, Kazuki managed to cancel our parents' plans to have her study abroad at a Parisian art school and settle into a more comfortable life as a semi-prodigy. Still, Kazuki continued to producing enough art to keep our father's creditors paid. Before even reaching middle school, she was the primary meal ticket, keeping our family financially stable. Once she's dead, their financial became bankruptcy. By that point, there was no longer anyone in the house capable of opposing my sister. Even for our parents, Kazuki was law. They treat her with a respect that was far from worship. Her strong sunlight creates deep shadows, and it's probably fair to say that I was a negligent child. My parents and sisters frequently ate outside of their house with sisters. It was uncommon for them to stay out until late at night, and I was always left behind to watch the house by myself. Whenever this happened, my dinner would be a sweet roll or two from the stash my mother kept in the cupboard for me. But one day it must slip her mind and she didn't leave anything in the usual place. The only thing I could find there was a half-eaten loaf of bread. It was all in hard, but it didn't look like it had gotten mold. When I checked the fridge, we were out of milk as well. I didn't see any much so I poured some tap water into a cup big of a hunk bread and then washed it down with the water. I don't remember feeling sorry for myself at the time. As long as it felt bad, my belly, I didn't really care. Still, it would start to get that rock-hard bad down my throat. Oh my! I did for a cleaver idea on my mind and I saw it waiting under a screw so to get clarified. It worked even better than I hoped. Once it was nice and so the work tastes nice, much better. Taking a second slide of slide from the bag, I watered it from the tap or while I took another bite. And in that moment, Kazuki stepped to the front door. Of course she's shocked. What are you doing? Who eat bread like that? And she saw me eating my water bread in front of the you can see her face control is shocked.
ユージ、あなた何を食べているの？
I'm hungry. It's just a bread. Oh no, because I was not supposed to eat this. I didn't ask first, they might get mad at me. As I to remember my mom study my pain, my sister Shah is like a prisoner's maid of agitation.
ほら、見なさいユージ。冷蔵庫の中にいくらでも食べ物があるじゃない。
But nobody said it was okay for me to eat that stuff. They yelled at me if I just took some without permission.
怒られないわよ。もしそんなことであなたが怒られたのなら、私があの人たちを怒るわ。
My sister squeezed her eyes shut and turned her face towards the ceiling. Her voice quivered with emotion.
なんということ？情けない。自分たちは外食をして、弟がこんなものを食べていたことにも気がつかなかったなんて。 死にたいぐらい恥ずかしいわ。
I'm sorry, 姉ちゃん。
あなたは何も悪くないわ。気づいてあげられなくて、私の方こそごめんなさい。
It's no big deal, I'm used to it. Kazuki's father shot this acceleration where opening the door to the place she began to impatiently rummage through his content, pulling out the rope at random.
ああ、もう、ろくなものが入っていない冷蔵庫ね。すぐに食べられそうなものが何もないじゃない。私がデッサンに使ったバナナがあるけど、食べる？
It's okay for me to eat those.
いいわよ。これからは何でも好きなものを食べなさい。私が許可します。
That day, the Kazuki harshly scolding our parents echoed throughout the door late into the night. It wasn't an argument in any real sense. She chewed them out and then said they took it. After this incident, my parents' attitude towards me changed dramatically. Unfortunately, it wasn't a change for a better. My father's scorn for me grew into an increasingly unconcealably loathing. Oh, that's a mother, and my mother's sensing danger and wanting no part of it began blatantly avoiding me, although she never again forgot to buy the sweet buns. Yeah, the mother is quite beautiful. No wonder the house grew openly opposed my sister. Naturally, that went for me as well. Kazuki made the rules and I followed them, no matter how absurd they might be. A little while after that incident, my sister called out to me when I came home from playing outside.
遅かったのね、ユージ。どこに行っていたの？
I was just playing with a friend.
そう、それはとてもいいことだけれど、まさか女の子じゃないわよね。
Well, yeah, it was.
あら、そう。もちろん説明してくれるわよね。どこのなんていう子？
Don't let me guess. Sachi? So it is a connection with the flashback.
初対面の女の子とすぐ友達になるなんてやるじゃない。それでまた会う約束をしたのね。
How do you know that?
どうして私にわからないことがあると思うの？
Yeah, dumb question.
今度その子、うちに連れていらっしゃいな。
I don't wanna. You always bully my friends, Nei-chan.
失礼ね。あなたの友達にふさわしいかどうか判断してあげているんじゃない。先月、あなたが連れてきた女の子を私が泣かせたことをまだ怒っているの？ちゃんと理由を説明したでしょ？いい？親が資産家というだけでは、いいお友達とは呼べないの。たとえ貧乏な家の子であっても、その子の存在があなたにプラスになるのであれば、私も何もしなかったし、ああはならなかったわ。
I understand that part, but do you really have to say all that stuff to her?
ああ、それはあの子が自分の父親を立派な大人だと勘違いしていたようだから、本当のことを教えてあげただけよ。
Maybe so, there was such thing as a breaking it gently. Looking at a young girl who was obviously proud of her dad in the eyes. Then sharply informed her your father is a middle-class man who gained his position solely through an above-average talent for passing the buck seems like a bit much. Even if they were arguing, there was a line that she really didn't have to cross.
それに、あの子の何が気に入らないって、自分を女王様か何かと勘違いしているところが一番気に食わないわね。世の中の男は全て自分に気があるとでも思っているのかしら。あの子のあなたを見る目は欲望に濁った女の目をしていたわ。子供のくせに気持ちの悪い。
Don't talk like that. I mean, people say the same sort of stuff about you, don't they? And you're the one who told me to make friends.
そうね。でも女友達を作れと言った覚えはないわ。それなのにあなたが作るお友達はどうして女の子ばかりなの？私が嫉妬するのがそんなに面白い？
姉ちゃん、
そりゃね、わかるわよ。あなたは顔も私に似て女の子のように可愛らしいし、物静かで乱暴は嫌いだし、一見してなよっとしているくせに意外とスポーツが得意だったりするし、何より優しいものね。そりゃいい感じにモテるでしょうよ。でもね、私はそれが気に入らないの。それはもう全然気に入らない。もしどうしても女の子の友達が欲しいのなら、私に許可をもらうこと。 私の許可した女の子以外と仲良くなることを禁じます。いい？
Wow. In that moment, I heard the echo of words my father had spoken to me once. The only reason I'm supporting a worthless brat like you is because Kazuki is attached to you. That meant I had no choice. I would be Kazuki plaything for the rest of my life. Whatever you say, Nei-chan.
そんな顔をしないで、ユージ。ごめんなさい。私が無茶を言っているのは分かっているのだけれど、いつか必ずあなたにふさわしい女の子を私が見つけてあげるから。
Okay.
というか、このままだとあなたは将来、ナチュラルに女の子を泣かせるずるい男になっちゃうわよ。
I'll be careful.
って全然気をつけてないじゃない。むしろびっくりするぐらいお姉さんの予言通りの男に育ってるじゃない。
Wow, that flashback. Look, I'm still in the middle of the story, okay? Don't just butt in at random.
だってねえ、ほらねえ。
Who are you expecting to back you up there? And for what it's worth, to the degree that my treatment of women may be slightly problematic, I think Kazuki is at least partially responsible.
どういうこと？
It's in the documents, isn't it?
ああ、姉によるセクハラ？
I don't know if harassment is exactly what. In retrospect, I guess it was.
資料には具体的な被害状況は記載されていなかったけれど、どんなことをされたの？
Do I really need to go into that?
地下の彼女ができるだけ詳細な資料をよこせと言っているのだから仕方がないのよ。
Her again, what a pain. If she's so interested, why can't I just have this conversation with her instead of you?
彼女には誰も会えないのよ。それがルール。
The rule, huh? Well, fine. Let's go back. I guess you could call it harassment. Sure, but it didn't really feel that way at the time. I didn't even think we were doing anything particularly strange.
ユージ、お風呂に入りましょう。
Okay. A sister and brother taking a bath together isn't anything out of the ordinary at their age. I knew for a few of my classmates did the same thing. Come, show me the scene. So I got into the bath with my big sister and let her wash my back from behind. Perfectly normal family bonding stuff at first. After washing my hair and cleaning behind my ears, Kazuki reached for the body soap and started working on my back. This involved gluing her body against mine in a tight embrace. By this point, I was naturally now starting to feel a little nonplussing. But when Kazuki whispered the words, friendly siblings do these sort of things all the time to my ears, I didn't really have any choice but to try and believe her.
ねえ、ユージはキスしたことある？
Yeah, it is, somehow. Sexual harassment. You're always kissing me.
そういう頬とかにじゃなくて、ほら、前に読んだ漫画みたいに、大人同士が愛し合ってするようなキス、したことある？
Not really. I mean, I haven't kissed anyone except for you, Nei-chan.
そう、いい子ね。とてもいい子だわ、ユージ。私以外とは絶対にダメよ。
Why?
私が嫌だからよ。ダメ？
Well, okay, I guess.
それなら、約束しなさい。いい？
Okay, I promise.
それから、女の子に興味を持ってはダメよ。
Interested? Is that different from just making friends?
厳密に言うと、ちょっと違うわね。手をつなぎたいとか、お風呂に一緒に入りたいとか。
But I already take baths with you.
私とはいいのよ。
Okay.
いい？ユージ。そういう感情は、とっても動物的なものなのよ。
Animalistic.
そう。自分の DNA を残そうとする動物の本能が生み出す感情。犬や猫と同じよ。ユージは犬や猫と同じでいいの？
At that time, the only dogs and cats I seen were the strange, hungry stray wandering around the street of the town. It was a little comforting when I saw why at least I was better off than them. So when Kazuki asked me if I wanted to be like those animals, there was only one answer. No, I really don't.
そうでしょ？だからユージ、約束しなさい。女の子に興味を持ってはダメよ。
Okay, I promise.
いい子ね、ユージ。とってもいい子よ。
I wonder what's happened at the number 3-1. It was confusing where this scene is when it was started before he started to romance any girl or I don't know. Kazuki continued to strictly hold me to that promise until the time of her death. So my attitude to a woman is a little ripe. You could probably say that she was the root cause.
姉から受けていた歪んだ愛情の反動で、今は女に歪んだ愛をぶつけるようになったと、そういうこと？
One way or another, I can't deny that Kazuki had a huge influence on my personality.
今でもお姉さんのこと恨んでる？
She tied me up with all sorts of rules and then dropped that out of the blue. There were times when I do look at her and feel a little bitter. Still, I don't think that resentment is the right word. At the end of the day, I was more scared of her than anything else. Much more than I ever was of my father.
お姉さんが怖かったか。
I mean, she was ingrained into my mind as the one person I had to obey absolutely no matter what. That hasn't really changed to this day. If Kazuki was still alive, I'd probably still be doing her bidding. Let's say no matter how much I think about it, no matter what else you want me to put on scale, I don't have any doubt that she genuinely loved me. Right now, I guess, I'm grateful to Kazuki.
そう。疲れた？少し休憩する？
Yeah, I appreciate it.
コーヒー入れるわ。
We go back to the school.
結局読んじゃったわよ。なんで怒ってんのあんた。だって本人の知らないところで勝手にこういうの読んじゃダメなんじゃないの？ほら、何？ゲロ袋的なやつ。ゲロ袋？おそらくエチケットという言葉がとっさに出てこなかったのではないかと。そう、それ！エチケット！親しき中にも3があり。はあ？小峰さん、この子は何を言っているの？あ、はい。親しき中にも礼儀ありと、国破れて賛がありとが言葉の響きだけでごっちゃになっていて、おまけに賛がありをサンガーリーと間違えて覚えているのではないかと。
なんだか最近のチルチルってばバカさ加減に隙がないのよさ。360度オールレンジバカって感じ？
バカって言うな！バカっていう子がバカなんだからね。まあとりあえずおからドーナツでも食べて一旦落ち着きましょうよ。
さっきから食ってんのよ。OD うめえ。
OD？ おしぼり泥棒？おからドーナツを略して OD では？というか、おしぼり泥棒ってどこから出てきた単語ですか？はあ、そんなのどうでもいいでしょ。それって今話すこと？ああ、さっちゃん地味にイラついてる。軽くでいいので、みちる様を殴ってもいいですか？どうして私に許可を求めるのよ。
さっちん、私が代わりに殴っといたから落ち着くのよ。
ありがとう、まきちゃん。ちょっと！おからドーナツ食べてる時に後ろからガッてしないで！鼻でおから食べちゃったじゃないのよ。鼻でおから食べ放題のおからバー状態じゃないのよ。もう汚いな。鼻からおからを飛ばさないの？どうしておやつぐらい静かに食べられないのあんたは。私が悪いの？ねえ。はあ、風見くんの過去を知って少しは真剣な空気になるかとも思ったのだけれど、あなたたちにそんなことを期待したことがすでに間違いだったわ。私もまだまだね。
Wikipedia. Wow, I didn't expect it. This website says, should I just press enter?
とりあえずここまで読んだけど、ユージってばこんな過去があったのね。そりゃあネクラのミリタリーオタクになっても仕方がないか。はぁ？はぁって何よ。何か文句あるの？
風見くんの不幸なんてこんなものじゃないわよ。というか、まだ始まってもいないわ。
何ユミコ。あんたユージの過去とか知ってるの？
これでも一応私は学園の運営側の人間なのよ。知らないわけがないでしょ。風見くん側から提出された資料には一通り目を通したし、そこから得た情報をもとに独自調査ぐらいするわよ。それでも風見くんの場合はあなたたちと違って開示制限のある情報が多くて、調べるのにとても苦労したし、全てを調べ上げたわけじゃないわ。幼い頃に風見くんと小峰さんの接点があったなんて、この資料で初めて知ったし。
あ、そうだサチ。あんたユージと幼馴染だったのね。
はい。と言っても、それほど親しかったわけではありませんが。
なんで言わなかったのよ。
一度も聞かれませんでしたから。それに、私の過去に直結する大切な思い出ですし、あまり気軽にポンポン話す気になれなかったと言いますか。だいたい、私もゆうくんにこんな事情があったとは知りませんでした。私と同じように何かお家に帰りたくない理由がある子なのかなとは思っていましたが、こうして改めて読んでみてとても驚きました。
私にしてみりゃ、やっぱなーっていうか、ある意味想像通りだったのよさ。
So now they give their opinion about Yuuji's past.
私はお兄ちゃんと遊んでもらうこと多かったから、いろいろな話を聞いてたし、なんつうかさ、お兄ちゃんもガキの頃、ろくな育てられ方してねえなーって思ってたし。そんで、なんか取り返しのつかないことが起こって、もう普通には生きられなくなったのかなーって、そんな風に思ってたのよ。
And she was the partially fault of his sister's death. Yuuji's sister's death.
スオさん、分かっているとは思うけれど、イリスさんは別にあなたを責めているわけではないのよ。
何なの？なんでアマネが落ち込むわけ？
I'm the one who caused Yuuji's big sister's die.
それは、じゃわかんないし。っていうか、言いにくいようなことなら無理に聞かないわよ。
もう、話してもいいんじゃないかしら、スオさん。
何？ユミコは全部知ってるの？その資料に出てくるユージのお姉ちゃん、風見和樹って、私の同級生で、私と同じバスケ部の部員だったのよ。そうなの？じゃああんたもユージのことを知ってたんだ。名前だけは聞いていたっていうか、ごめん、うまく説明できない。
本人の口から説明するのは辛いでしょうし、私から説明する方がいいのかしら。と言っても、私も新聞で調べたこと以上の情報は持っていないのだけれど。
そんなこともあろうかと、この小峰幸。先ほどからドーナツをパクつきながらも、マキちゃんと二人で、あたかもジグソーパズルを組み立てるがごとく復元した続きの資料がございますが、お読みになられますか？
小峰さん、あなたこの学園を卒業してもスパイで食べていけるわよ。
いいえ、私はマキちゃんが選別したものを並べているだけですよ。すごいのは、裁断された資料に印刷された文字編を一瞬で記憶して関連付けしながら集めているマキちゃんです。
ほいよ、次のページ上がり。
早いわね。
このまま7分に1ページのペースで復元していけば、比較的短時間で全てを復元することも可能ですが、どうしますか？続けますか？
ユミコ。
だから、いちいち私に許可を求めないでくれる？
いいよ、続けて。ユージに怒られたら、私が責任取って謝るから。
スオさん、あなた。
私、知りたいの。あの事故の後、ユージがどうなったのか、どんな風に生きてきたのか、知りたい。
Then we go back. You act normally adorable today, JP. Act normally.
何よ、突然。
Well, I was just thinking it's been a while since I had some of your coffee. Just my way of showing my gratitude. I'm waking up to a smell of miso soup pretty often these days. Maybe I'm starting to appreciate that sort of thing. A little more, all thanks to Amane, I suppose.
あまねちゃんのことは知っているんでしょ？
That she was a classmate of Kazuki, you mean? Yeah, only found out fairly recently though.
彼女を恨んではいないの？
I don't think she was responsible for Kazuki's death, and either way, it's not like blaming her will bring the bad dad back to life. I mean, if you gave me a choice between Amane and Kazuki back at the time of the accident, I would want my sisters to survive. But at this point, I'm seriously grateful to Kazuki for protecting her.
あなたにとってお姉さんとはどんな存在だったの？
Kazuki was Kazuki, nothing more, nothing less. But if you really want something more conceptual, I guess I saw her as a king of true god.
神ね。
That's just how much of a kid I was. Anyway, let's keep going with that document. So let's go back. Eventually, my sister entered a famous private school on the wishes of our parents. Through high-quality instruction appropriate for someone of Kazuki's talent, her eccentric would mature and evolve, bringing her art to an even higher level of sophistication. That was the idea at least, but my sister deliberately betrayed our parents' overblown expectation, shunning Takizono Academy Fine Arts class in favor of the basketball team. Her grades in academics subjects and PEs alike were suspicious, consistent 72nd across the board. Hiding her overwhelming talents, Kazuki pursued a tranquil everyday life. That sharp thoughts of hers still make a few appearances, of course, but in a school for rich young ladies, a slightly thorny attitude was nothing out of the ordinary. On top of which, Kazuki was trying very hard to come out as a pleasant, mild-mannered girl to her classmates. She managed to gather a good number of friendly acquaintances through that act. She picked out useful or competent girls from the group for special attention, controlling them like pawns to her own advantage. Well, controlling is probably a little too harsh. The people my sister manipulated didn't really notice it was happening. Rather than forcing them to do something, she subtly guided them toward certain choices. For the most part, they did exactly what Kazuki wanted without even realizing that she was influencing their actions. I was the only one who knew what my sister really was, and that was only because she discussed her real intentions so frankly with me ever since we were young. Even our parents were aware that they were dancing on Kazuki's strings. I was deeply afraid of her. Kazuki can't be human, maybe she's some kind of kami, I was the only one who understood my sister's true nature. But terrified as she was, I was also completely dependent on her. I assumed that I would keep living in the palm of Kazuki's hand for many years to come. Right up until the day she left for a basketball team summer training camp. It was my sister's first summer vacation since entering Takizono Academy, following a relatively uneventful few months for our strange family. Kazuki was best to stay in an overnight camp as a member of the Takizono basketball team, for which she would be staying at the campground in Nagano Prefecture. She'd always be at the center of that Luxai family, counteracting the centrifugal forces that would otherwise rip us apart. She was the balance shaft that kept our household rotating smoothly, and now, suddenly, she was gone. That week stretched on and on. The anxiety was suffocating, inescapable. It fast thought that I'd been left all alone on the sailing boat in a totally calm sea. Only 2 days after Kazuki left my house, my parents began to argue vigorously each other. They encountered each other. And if I was unfortunate enough to be somewhere nearby, I would usually end with Dad blindsiding me with harsh words and harassment that I had earned simply for being a convenient target. The coffee's too damn hot. That was enough of a reason for my father to throw a mug at my head. It wasn't the first time something like that had happened. A few days without my sister, and we were already falling apart, was the absence of God that it took to make people into such ugly creatures. Picking up the fragments of that shadow, I watched my mother sobbing importantly on the floor, and found myself praying that Kazuki would come home as soon as possible. I held my breath. I made myself small, like some frightened animal burrowing deep into the ground. I tried desperately to avoid my breath, waiting for my sister to return. Once Kazuki comes back, once God returns, I wouldn't have to hide myself anymore. All I had to do was keep quiet and endure. This nightmare would be end eventually. I was used to enduring this sort of thing. As long as I didn't get greedy, I wouldn't get hurt. I wouldn't suffer too much. I'd just be a little lonely for a while, a little sad. It wouldn't kill me. After all, this bed of nails was only a temporary torment. That miserable week had finally passed. It was all but over now. Today my sister was coming home. God was returning. She was never easy to deal with, but having her around sure beat the alternative. In that respect, I suppose Kazuki really was a divine presence in our lives. But people who can laugh off the idea of God don't know how lucky they are. That's only an option for someone who never found themselves completely helpless, someone who never looked up at the sky and screamed through their tears. In the end, my prayers dissolved meaningless into the clouds. My sister didn't get back on time. The music just stopped. At first, we assumed the bus was caught in traffic, but after a few hours, that started to seem less likely. The team's advisor, who had been in charge of the trip, wasn't answering his cell phone. We tried calling Kazuki instead, but he only another medical voice informing us that the home was turned off on our range. I had a bad feeling about it. As I remember my bitter childhood fantasizing of a life without Kazuki frightened what ifs filled through my mind, and I could feel sweating oozing cold out of my pores. I just spent years daydreaming about my sister disappearing. What right did I have to expect her to come back and rescue me now? Maybe she finally got sick of my selfish and decided to live for good? That sense of guilt grew heavy as the rock in the pit of my stomach. When I learned that Kazuki and the classmate had vanished without a trace, it was as if their buzz has been abruptly spitted off the face of the earth. Despite an all-out search effort by authorities along the road and our local police, 2 weeks crawled out with no progress whatsoever. Finally, the investigation headquarters set up by the Tokyo Metro Police was dissolved and the case was instructed to the National Police and as a matter for a long-term wide-scale investigation. To put the matter more simply, they halfway given up on finding them. Local search efforts still continue now, personally funded by the families of the missing girls, but not to avail. Eventually, they were even talking that it might have been a mass kidnapping organized by a foreign country. And in the home to which my sister never returned. My father, his principal source of income, got ranted and raved in a nearly frenzy. My mother, unable to oppose her husband, could do nothing but grieve, and cry. I hid myself quietly in the shadows as our house filled with darkness. One night, I snuck into my sister's studio to gaze at her half-finished paintings. My sister can't possibly be dead. Kazuki is above that. Blind faith was all I had to clinch now. Maybe this disappearance was part of my sister's plan. Maybe she was living as a totally different person somewhere, enjoying the freedom and normality she desperately longed for. These ridiculous delusions at least allowed me to hold on to some fragile shares of hope. But in the end, even that Miyaji refugee was shattered to pieces. A single student had been on a basketball trip where my sister was discovered in a farmer's field, where she been greedily devoured cabbage after cabbage. The girl was emaciated and exhausted, but managed to explain the situation to the local policeman, who rushed to a hospital room. On the way back, the team had taken an all-unused mountain road to avoid congestion. The tire had to be punctured, and the bus plunged down to a cliff in the section of the road with no guardrail. Fortunately, the bus didn't catch on fire after it tumbled down the slope, but he had landed at the bottom of the deep natural hole, separated from the road by a thick rainier that made discovery unlikely. And of course, their cell phone were out of range. As for leaving to summon on help on their own, the walls of the valley sloped over them, making it impossible to climb back up. There was a possibility of escape through the dense virgin forest at the very bottom of the gorge, but there were so many wounds, so they grew out for the convenient plan of waiting for help while conversing their supplies. At the bottom of the forest, sorting their light barely reached them. The team endured for 2 long weeks. Finally, their limits of physical mental endurance long since passed, the girls mustered their last ounce of strength for a desperate escape attempt. She was the only one to get out alive. When the police resumed their search based on the survivors' testimony, they found the fallen bus without much difficulty. It was now a clump of wreck lying at the bottom of the rocky floor, below an abandoned road. On the site, they found signs of a struggle involving multiple individuals, all of with numerous mutilated corpses, some were already composed of. My sister's death was officially confirmed in mid-September. The Takizono Academy bus disaster. Many details regarding the disaster were deliberately concealed from the public, and even a supplement of fact, it exaggerates speculation, leading to a popular narrative that differs significantly from the truth in many respects. But at the time, I had no way of knowing that in any case, there was only one fact that seemed relevant for the Kazumi family. The death of my sister. Yes, it is unknown where she possibly be gone. The death of God. It was too much to accept. My father's rage, my mother wept. I actively refused to believe it. Kazuki-Chan was be dead. No matter how many times I repeated those childish words to myself, my sister was coming back with the passage of time. We slowly began to accept the fact, and our family began to crumble under its weight. Despair spread through the house like a cancer. The fragile bonds that had tied us together rot away with frightening speed. My father was devastated. His overblown expectation for my sister's future had come to nothing. All the money he spent on her education was now just another investment gone bust. One by one, the companies which had offered financial attestation on Kazuki abandoned him. Once the last line of credits dried up, we no longer had any real source of income. Our living condition deteriorated visibly from week to week. My family had always been a brittle, egg-shaping. Now, with our only pillar of hope gone, that ramshackle structure gave up even trying to hold itself together. We lost the energy to maintain a fast. Wallowing in self-pity over his misfortune, my father began drinking heavily nearly every day. His mistreatment of my mother and it escalated into clear abuse. He hit the bars until the door with less than several friends, often ended up in a drunk tank for below and some helpless waitress. When he did manage to stagger home, he beat Mom vigorously, screaming, "I'm the master of this house." Mom hadn't done anything wrong, but she still apologized every time he started hitting her. Again and again, desperately. I'm sorry. Not even knowing what she was apologized for, she groveled with her forehead to the ground, whimpered to the word like a terrified animal waiting for the storm to blow past. My mother was a very weak person. In the old man's words, she was a woman with nothing going for her but her looks. He seemed to think he'd done her a real favor picking her out of the bar where he'd been working for lack of any other way to support herself. If I could tell that Dad had never treated her particularly well. Still, she'd given birth to the golden egg. Her position as Kazuki mother guaranteed her a fairly comfortable life. But now that the role had been taken away from her and she had nothing left to defend herself with, the same was true for me. With no way to fight back, I had no choice but to endorse my father's irrational violence. I was essentially a living participant for him to vent his anger on. One night when he came back home particularly drunk, Mom pushed me into a wardrobe.
ここに隠れていなさい。お父さんはまたきっとすぐに寝てしまうから。私がいいと言うまではここから出てきてはダメよ。
No, Mom, let me get here instead. I don't think she was worried about my safety for his own sake. Now that Kazuki was gone, my mother had simply grown dependent on me. I was only the ally she had left.
あなたのためにお母さん頑張るから。
Telling herself was probably the only way Mom could see living as anything but a source of meaningless pain. The idea of protecting her only remaining child was the convenient means of bolstering her courage against the temptation to die. Windows for 3 months, trembling at very sounds of the door once every night fell. Finally, my mother could take no more, and the two of us left that hellish house hand in hand. There weren't any relatives to take us in. Mom had never been a job outside of a nightclub and knew a little of the world. With no real plan, we flew to Moriba and Chiba, the city where she grew up. She rented an apartment not far from her childhood. Oh yeah! One day her mother died, right? Something like that. Wait, I forgot already. Did Yuuji kill both of them or? I don't quite remember. Anyway, we gotta end the episode here.
セーブするわ。
I'm really curious right now. Really curious. Adios e famosa.